it's all good to help, right? Help family, help friends. But you need to make sure that those things fit within your budget.
And that's the thing, is the disappearing. If you know where your money is going to, you feel a level of contentment in where you are. So I really, really, really do believe you need to itemize what your expenses are.
If you're a young person watching this podcast, I beg you, focus your time on developing yourself. Finding yourself, understanding yourself, like spend time doing things that build you, that make you develop yourself. It's super important. Like hang out with people who are contributing to your life, people who are you actually learning from.
So seeing somebody post something and you feeling a bit deflated could also just be a thing of like, they've already done the work and now this is their result. And as long as you're doing your work, hopefully you're going to get your own results.
Welcome to the Years Ahead Pod. We're very excited to be talking to you today. My name is Dio.
My name is Ora.
So if you're new here, this is the podcast where we talk about all things finance, relationships, career, lifestyle, right? And the reason why we created this for people in our communities, so the immigrant communities, people from different backgrounds, maybe people who are not natively American, because we've noticed from the conversations that we have, the research that we have is a lot of people want to have these conversations, but they don't know where to go, right? There's not enough mentorship or information. And the information that's out there also seems too generic.
Yes.
And so the reason for this is so we can have a little more nuanced, angle to the conversations that we have. Maybe that's around finances, money, career. And so, we're really hoping that it's of, use to you, and then you can gain a lot from this.
Yes. And I think even with each specific scenario, there are still things that you can take out of it, even for your own personal life.
Yes.
So I think while we're listening to this, if you have any advice for, the questions that we have here, please put it in the comment section, put it in the chat. Like, I think what we're trying to also build here is community.
Yes.
Which is a big part of, I think, growing. So just as we are giving whatever advice we may have from our experiences, you could have a different perspective that we haven't even thought about. So please put those in the comment section, put that in the chat. We'd love to hear what you guys think about these questions.
No, you're absolutely right. I think the other angle is we don't have all the answers.
Yes.
Right? Because we're navigating a lot of these things, even in our own daily lives. So some of our questions will be to you to help us, or at least some conversation will be open-ended where we're still kind of navigating like, how do I deal with this and how do I deal with that? So this is not a guru answering questions. We're having conversations and navigating, our own realities.
Definitely.
Yes.
Do you want to go into the very first question?
And today, happens to be a very special episode because we're answering some questions, questions that we think are cross-generational, questions that we think are burning in the hearts of people. Some we've heard, directly, and questions that we also have that we want to answer today. So why don't I go with the first question? And the first question is, this is more about money and confusion, especially for a young person. And it goes, I'm 24 and currently making $80,000. But I feel like I have nothing to show for it. After taxes, rent, helping my family, and just basic expenses, it feels like my money disappears every month. See, I see people online talking about investing, saving 20%, building wealth, but I honestly don't even know where to start because it feels like I don't have enough left over. Am I doing something wrong? Or is this just what this stage looks like? How do I actually start building wealth when it feels like I'm just surviving?
Yes. And I feel like it's something that I relate to a lot. Is like sometimes you feel like after you've done all of your expenses, it almost feels like what's left. And we talked about this previously, but we really do believe that the first step to being financially free or even just financially stable, honestly, it's the budget. I really think right here, you've listed taxes, rent, helping my family. But actually sit down and realize, okay, how much goes into rent? How much goes into, helping my family? How much goes into, let's say, medical insurance or car insurance? We say sit down and actually look at these things and then see if there are any place where money is leaking, where you're not aware of. Maybe one thing you always talk about, most people have this penalties or maybe speeding tickets, figure out where the money's going. Maybe I'm eating out maybe a little bit too much. Maybe I should cut back on that. Maybe it could be other things even expenses maybe you didn't really plan to do. Maybe your friend just practically just says, "Oh, are you free on Friday?" Like maybe you didn't plan to do these things, but these things end up coming up, and sporadically you're just spending money in different places. It could even just be like giving money to sometimes even to family. Yeah. Like you don't know, you realize at the end of the month you've given out so much money that you haven't really planned for. So the first step is actually planning. Yeah. I say sit down with your finances and figure out how much is going out per month. It can even be per paycheck. Like, okay, I get paid every other Friday. This is how much I have, and this is how much I'm putting towards things. And I say from there, then you have to assess what could potentially be reduced. So maybe each month I have a going out expense. Let me just say like $400. Like, let me reduce that actually to maybe $200. And you can find other things that you can do in your free time that doesn't require like, so much money. Yep. So I say it will be the second step will be how can I reduce that? Yep. Another step that like I've heard people say, and I'm really starting to like take that on, is like, if you're going to a point where you can't necessarily maybe reduce your expenses, increase your income.
Increase your income.
So can I do a side hustle? Maybe it's photography, maybe it's social media. Like we see people have social media accounts these days and making good enough money to kind of suffice. So I say it could be that. It could be just extra work that you could do on the side to make more money. So if you can reduce your expenses for some reason, increase your income.
Yes.
I say like that would be my advice. What would you say?
No, I think you're right. I think the other part is also knowledge helps with confusion. Because a lot of times when people are confused, it's because they don't know what to do or how to go about it. So just consuming like education around finances, right? So maybe it's this podcast, maybe it's learning, to the point that you made earlier, like what's a budget? What's my inflow? What's my outflow? So I think that's always important, but also surround yourself with people who are doing these things, right? Because you don't want to be the only one within your group of friends or your community that's really looking to be serious about finances. Like surround yourself, because there's that network effect too, right? Where if you're around people who are saving, who are investing, then you're a lot more encouraged. Yeah, you learn more, like it pushes you towards that. But I think also is don't put too much pressure on yourself, because this person is 22. 24, right? You're just starting out, right? Yeah. So don't put too much pressure on yourself. Yes, it's good to start early. Yes, it's very important to start early, but also understand that these things take time.
Yes.
Right. So it's a long game, right? Don't compare yourself, for example, to maybe people who are way ahead.
Yes.
So I think that's always very important too.
Yes. I think it's the comparison thing as well, because you're saying like you're watching people online and maybe you're talking about like, these really great things, but then realize that like, hopefully you're doing the best that you can do at each point in time. So I think there's a level of contentment that comes in that. But I really want to, something that like the person said is like my money disappears each month. And that's the thing, is the disappearing. If you know where your money is going to, you feel a level of contentment in where you are. So I really, really, really do believe you need to itemize what your expenses are. And then hopefully go from there.
No, I totally agree with that.
Yes.
Totally agree with that.
Okay, now let me ask the next question to you. And this one is a bit cultural as well, I think, from, the immigrant point of view. So I'm 26, and as a first generation Nigerian American, I feel a strong responsibility to support my family financially. I send money home occasionally and I help out when needed, but I'm starting to feel like it's slowing down my ability to save and invest for myself. I don't want to be selfish, but I also don't want to look back in 10 years and realize I didn't build anything for myself. Yeah. So how do you balance taking care of your family while still building your own financial future?
It's a great question. I think it maybe even relates to the first question.
Yes.
It's all good to help, right? Help family, help friends. But you need to make sure that those things fit within your budget.
Yeah.
Right? So there's a school of thought where every month or maybe every period, maybe that's over 3 months period or a quarter, like you have a budget for what you help others with.
Yes.
Maybe that's your family. It's not your responsibility, except in cases where it's like life and death. It's not your responsibility to cater to other people's emergencies. So I think that's very important. But to take that even further, like in our community, in the immigrant community, it's not very uncommon that people support families. Maybe people who are here or back home where your country is. And this is normal, right, in the Asian community, in the African community. Not even like direct families. They're friends who maybe you grew up with, who are maybe less privileged, right? Or don't make as much, or not in the same situation in life financially that you're in. So there's nothing wrong with, helping people, but you do need to put yourself first, not in a selfish way, but knowing that you also need to be intentional about building something for yourself.
Yes.
And so let's say you make, $2,000 in a month, $500 of that is already going towards your rent. Maybe, you give to your church or your faith-based organization or a charitable organization, like have a portion of that goes towards family, right? So maybe $400 or $500 of that is the maximum that you can do, right? And if you've maxed that out in a month, like, don't, but always be thinking about, we've talked about investing 20%.
Yes.
Right? Make sure that you're trying to eat that 20% and see how much you can do, with what's left to kind of help other people.
Yeah.
But you do have to put yourself first.
Yes.
The other part of this is the advantage that a lot of people have over the immigrant communities, that they don't have this black tax, right? So you have to be intentional about, not that you don't want to help, not that you don't want to, support, have a specific and specified amount or portion of your income that's going towards that, which you're not going to exceed, again, except it's like life and death.
Yes. And I would even say, like, obviously we just spoke about black tax, right? Like that's essentially what this is.
Yes.
It's, you have people that you feel responsible for, and essentially like, money is being transferred over to them, maybe weekly, maybe monthly, and all of those things. And so, and I understand where that could be coming from, especially like, there's a level to which you feel like people around you have sacrificed for you to be where you are.
Yep.
Like, let's say this person's 26. So let's say this person is making maybe 80K, 90K.
Yep.
You feel like, maybe your parents sent you, to school abroad and now you're working abroad. Or maybe you just feel like you've had family, like, support you along the way. And so you feel a level of responsibility and you feel like if they've sacrificed for me to be here, now I want to give back to them.
Yes.
And so we're not negating that, like, that is a part of our culture, or even just a part of, I just even think being a good human being is like, giving back to those people who have also given to you. But I genuinely also believe you need to fill your cup up first. Yes. That's what you need to do first. Is everything in order? And then once that is, then you're able to give. You give from what is overflowing. Yeah. So I really think people should, as you said, specify the amount of money that they want to give out each month. Yeah. But another key thing I want to teach people, like I want people to learn sometimes, and this is even me as a child of like parents who, give and teach me that giving is an important part of, being a good human being, is sometimes rather than always just giving someone I'm trying to think about how people say this phrase, rather than giving people just the money, teach them how to fish.
Yes.
I can't always serve you the plate. I can show you how to get the fish and then you make your own plate. Yes. So you have a brother or sister or, somebody who you've been giving money to for the past 5 years. That's not sustainable. I even think it sometimes disrupts relationship when relationships become transactional, where like now when you see their phone call, you're thinking,
I don't want to do this.
Uncle Timothy is calling me again. You feel like there's a level to which relationship now isn't so fruitful. Yeah. So I want people to learn that, like, and it's not always easy, but, teach them how to fish. Yeah. Whether it's sit down with them and be like, okay, I want to give you this amount of money, but what are you going to do with it? Is it for a business? Okay, what is the plan for the business in the next 1 year? How do you plan for this to scale? Let them go do some research and then let them come back to you and be like, okay, here it is. Even like you have maybe like nieces or nephews who you're giving money to maybe back home. You're giving money to them for school. The question is, okay, this is your school fees, sure. But when you come back, I need to see the grades. Like, let there be a sense of responsibility when it comes to giving people money, accountability, so that you're not just always feeding them. Sometimes it can even be shameful. Yeah. So I think instead, empower them to do things that would allow them to be self-sufficient. And then the relationship, I believe, begins to prosper.
No, I think that last part is actually very key. Like empowering them, to make money and be self-sustaining as opposed to relying on you.
Yes.
I think that's always very key.
Yes.
It's powerful.
Definitely.
The next question here is, this goes back to the comparison thing in social media. Yeah. This person is saying, I'm 23 and I feel like social media has completely distorted my perception of success. Every time I open my phone, it feels like people my age are doing better than me. Yeah. Making more money, traveling, building businesses. Even when I know it's not the full picture, yes, it still affects how I see myself and my progress. Yes. How do I stay focused on my own journey without constantly comparing myself to others?
But there's something you said earlier, something about, social media shows you.
It's the algorithm of envy. Yes.
Perfect.
Yes.
That's literally what it is. And you're right in terms of like, that's not the full picture.
Yeah.
Like what you see on social media is not the full picture.
It is not. Yeah.
So I want people say like you compare other people's results while you're still in your own journey. Like
you're comparing their final reels to your back to what did we say again?
To the hard work.
To the behind the scenes.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah. So all you're seeing is a finished result. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, you're still in process of working. Like they've also worked for it.
Yeah.
Right. So I think it's really to understand that like things don't just come out of thin air. Right. So seeing somebody post something and you feeling a bit, deflated could also just be a thing of like they've already done the work.
Yes.
And now this is their result. And as long as you're doing your work, hopefully you're going to get your own results. Yeah. So there's also that. But then also people are lying on social media. First of all, people are lying. And so you can't necessarily live, this is your reality. You can't live your reality in comparison to somebody else's lie. You can't be trying to compare yourself to somebody else. You don't even, first of all, you've seen the car. Do you even know if they actually own the car? People are renting and leasing cars for a few months or maybe even for a day, posting online, and you're thinking, but I'm still saving up for my car, and you're feeling deflated. But I'm saying, understand that that is not always reality.
The true thing, yeah.
Yes. But then another thing that has to come into place are people are always going to be ahead of you. Right. People are doing, maybe they're older than you and they've accomplished more things and all of these things. But I really don't want people to feel like those things define you. Yeah. Your identity is not tied by the material things that you have. Yeah. And so your mindset has to change from a place of my identity is just found in who I am. So that's the first thing is that. And I think we've mentioned this before, but people should know, as long as you're doing your best, you're fine.
Yeah.
Doing your best in your career, your best in your relationship with other people. As long as you're doing that, then the feeling of discontentment or the feeling of jealousy is something that you can, kind of overcome. Yeah. But I want to also just tell you that it's normal.
Yeah, it is.
I experience that a lot of the times. Yeah. Have you gone on LinkedIn? Everybody, congratulations. I want to thank, I'm pleased to announce, I'm pleased to share. There's no day you go on there. There's always something. Yeah. And so it's normal to have those feelings. But then what comes after is the work.
Yes.
So are you, studying for certificates? Are you going back to school? Are you learning new things about your industry? Are you even trying out new things? Mm-hmm. So I say get off social media, get off your phone and tap back into reality.
No, I completely agree. If you're a young person watching this podcast and you're in your early 20s or, mid 20s, I beg you, focus your time on developing yourself.
Yes.
Taking in energy from social media is one of the most detrimental things that you do to yourself. Shut yourself out of social media. I was talking to someone the other day and they don't have a social media account. While I felt like that was extreme, the point that they had was I don't want to keep taking all these people's energy, right? And then disrupting my own energy. And I agree with that, right? To the extent that you can control it, shut it out, only use it when necessary. Don't be too, drawn into excessive entertainment or just the need to scroll and see, because that also kind of affects, your mental health and how you feel about yourself, how you feel about the world. So I think that's the first thing. The second thing we should mention is, finding yourself, right? Finding yourself, understanding yourself, spend time doing things that build you, that make you develop yourself. It's super important. Hang out with people who are contributing to your life, people who are you actually learning from, not people who make you feel less of yourself or who are doing all these lofty things that don't really add any value to you. So if you're a young person looking at this, optimize for learning, for development, for opportunities. Spend your time doing things that can produce the type of life that you really want to live. I think that would be very important.
Yeah, that's very helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so now let's go into something about regrets and, restarting a little bit later. Yeah. So hi, I'm 48 and I feel like I'm behind financially compared to where I thought I'll be at this stage in my life. I spent a lot of my earlier years focused on taking care of my family and didn't prioritize saving or investing the way I probably should have. Yeah. Now that I'm trying to take it more seriously, I feel this mix of urgency and regret. I'm running out of time to fix things. is it still realistic to build meaningful wealth at this stage? And how should someone in their 40s think about catching up without feeling overwhelmed?
It's a great question. A lot of people are in this situation, quite honestly. And I think there are several steps to get there. The good thing is that you have the advantage of experience. You have the advantage of having lived life. You have the advantage of having poured into other people. Those things also have their own benefits. But it looks like this question is very specific around like finances. Like how do I think about it? I think the first thing is to reset your timelines. Right? So in the traditional sense, when people are saying, oh, I want to retire by 50 or 55, now you have to reset your timelines because then that's where you start. So instead of thinking about a retirement at 60, can you push it a little further to like 65, 67? Because that then starts to, reshape the horizon for you. Like I have, instead of 15, now I have about 25 years. And someone who is 46, right, still has a good 20 years to really work, 25 years to really work. Yeah. So like extend that timelines. I think the other thing then is the system, right, is actually in your favor because like all these contributions we talk about, like 401k, in your later years, the limits also just kind of increase for people who are maybe trying to catch up, right? Yes. They call them catch-up contributions. So you can do that. It's very important to really learn. But I think the key now at this point, as we start to talk about maybe investing money and growing financially, is financial education is actually very important.
Yes.
Discipline is also very important. This is not the time where you want to chase like get rich quick scheme because you lose money doing that. Yeah. You don't have the luxury of taking unnecessary or like uncalculated risks. So really understanding like what the different options are out there, maybe like insurance products, like investing in 401k, maybe even trying out real estate, like safe, calculated, but tested and trusted type of investment, I think is always good. There's never, yes, it could be late, but the only thing you can do to further inflict yourself with this pain is to wait, right? You just have to like start like right now. I think the other thing is at this point in your life, you do need to be very conscious of leakage. Right? Because it's very important. Like for a younger person, like people push them like, oh, don't spend money, like do this and do that. Yeah. For someone who's older, like overconfidence and pride and just laziness will make you not go back and start like checking those things. Like if you're feeling like that at, your mid 40s, you do need to go back and see like, where am I spending too much money? Do I have discipline around money? We've talked about all these fees. Like, am I spending my money on things that I shouldn't be? Yeah. Am I spending money on paying tickets? Am I spending money because I'm paying too much for stuff and I'm not trying to look for like cheaper and better alternatives? Like, look for the leakages in your life. Like, people can quickly realize. I was talking to someone the other day who feels like they're not able to save. They're in their early 40s. And the question is like, are you really intentional about looking? And then they started to look, is like, well, I spend too much on food, right? I spend too much on having people do stuff for me where I could do things for myself. Yeah. Like maybe that's being a little more handy, right? Or just finding cheaper alternatives or planning things ahead of time. Like, well, you notice that when people are, getting into their late 40s, they stop planning. Like they maybe do things like whimsically or just sporadically. Maybe they want to travel or they want to do something or they're responding to emergencies. Like you need to plan yourself out. Yeah. I think those things are, very important. It's natural to feel that way, especially when you see like the world around you is moving. Yeah. But the key is to start now, right? Yes. Start now, reset your timelines, reset your expectations, learn and educate yourself around like finances, money, the channels to grow wealth. And then this might also be the places to leverage your experience, right? Now in your mid 40s, you've built up, a number of experiences in a number of areas. Maybe that's your career. Maybe that's your life. Like think of how to monetize your experiences, right? Because we've talked about that in this show is how do you build wealth? Yes. Right? It's reduce your spending and increasing your income and then saving, and investing the difference, right? So are there avenues where you can make more money? Right? Where you don't necessarily maybe have to change careers. Like, can you leverage your experience in maybe being a coach, being, something, starting a side business in an area where you've built a lot of experience.
Yeah.
So it's those types of things.
Yeah. And I would even say, like, and it's kind of touched on what you said, where like you reset expectations. I think you can sit down now and really outline and paint the picture of what you want your retirement to look like.
Yes.
So at 48, I'm assuming that you kind of know what your priorities are. Maybe it's spending time with family more. Maybe it's whatever else it could be. Maybe pouring more into like, your business or whatever it may be.
Yes.
I say paint a new picture of what you want your future to look like.
Yeah.
And so that could be like fuel to help you in the next few years. Yeah. Maybe you do want to retire maybe a little bit earlier. Maybe you don't want to push it to 67 or 66.
Yeah.
So if it's that you want to stay at 60, that requires aggressive saving and aggressive investing.
Yes.
That's a few for you to know, okay, the next 12 years is what I want to do. And so you are more dogged in what you're doing. Yeah. So I think it's like, what life do I want to live now? Mm-hmm. What life do I want to live in the future? And kind of resetting based on everything else that you said, kind of resetting and figuring out how do I actually get there?
Yeah. I think maybe just to close out on that question is there's also the part where you take a good audit of your life.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have debt that's going to hinder you from moving forward? Like cutting back on that is saving in its own sense.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying? Because if you have like a huge mortgage, for example, or, you have all this debt, maybe that's like in a car or this is the time to start thinking about like, you don't have to prove anything to anyone at this point, right? So like cutting down on lifestyle, is something that I think is going to be very important in just kind of taking that audit of your own life to say, okay, what are, to the point that you made, like what are the priorities that I need to kind of focus on. I think also we talk about financial education. It's important that at this stage, like you educate yourself. You educate yourself in what retirement really then looks like. Like, what does retirement look like? How do I really plan around that? Like, what does my life need to look like at that stage? I think it's important that people do that. Yeah.
So another question that we have from one of our viewers is, I'm 51 and bought my home years ago thinking it was the best financial decision I could make.
Yes.
But now I'm not so sure. Between maintenance costs, property taxes, and being tied to one location, I sometimes feel like it's limited my flexibility.
Okay.
When I see conversations now about renting versus buying, I wonder if I could have done things differently.
Yeah.
How should people think about homeownership long term, not just as an investment, but as a life decision?
As a life decision.
Yes.
I think this is very important, right? So we've talked a lot about, the question about, rent versus buy.
Yes.
Should I invest in the market? Should I invest in real estate? And then this person has bought their, home for a number of years now. And they're like, is this a good decision and all that stuff? I think there are several parts to this, right? Number one is, if you were to buy the same house right now, like how much would you have bought it? Right? I bet it's going to be more expensive to buy that. So there's the advantage that at least you got the house way cheaper, which means that there's some equity in it.
Yeah.
Now, if there's no equity in it and you're still, having a lot of mortgage, that's a different conversation.
Yeah.
Or if you feel like maybe the house is not serving you and then you just wasted money. So it's a different conversation. But in the realms of, was it a good financial decision versus not, I think it's not really just even a question for like a 51-year-old. It's also a question for like a younger person who's considering like, should I buy a house?
Yeah.
Or should I not buy a house? I think there are several arguments to that.
Yeah.
But one thing I can tell you for sure is that money paid in rent is gone in rent.
Gone.
Like gone. It's not, yes, people talk about, I need to be flexible. I need to be able to just up and go. But like, how many times in your life are you really going to up and go? Except you have a business or you live a lifestyle that takes you around, which is a different ball game. So I think that if you're going to be settled, if you're going to be in a career that maybe causes you to move around less than every 10 years, you're better off buying a house. I don't think it's a bad financial decision.
Yeah.
As far as you're buying in a disciplined way, you're not buying, too much house that's taking too much from you where you're not able to save, right? But if you're buying a house, I think it's definitely one of the ways to build wealth, right?
Okay, let me give a little bit of a story and then you tell me this.
Okay, yes.
Right, so last summer, obviously, hot, days. One day randomly, I'm in my room.
Yeah.
And I'm sweating.
Okay.
But I wasn't sweating 5 minutes ago.
Okay.
the AC isn't working.
Okay.
So the guy comes, we called the guy. Firstly, I even thought maybe something was just off. I could just fix it myself. Yes. You want to be handy. So I tried. I even changed the filter. I thought it was the filter. Yeah. Guys, it wasn't the filter. So I tried to fix it. Obviously, nothing worked. I'm not even an HVAC person. I don't know why I thought I could do that. The man comes, mentions an issue. We pay for that one. Good, fine, chill. I mean, it's a home. You have the account where you can, fix things and all of those things. Cool. I don't even think it was even up to 2 weeks. The AC wasn't working again.
So you had to spend another...
the man, when the man came, he's like smiling. I'm not smiling. My parents aren't smiling. Like, this is another thing I have to invest in. Yeah. So this person saying, for example, like, maintenance cost. And it's that system, if you need to replace one, people sometimes pay that over 30 years.
Yes,
we know people have to stretch these payments out sometimes. Yes. It's because this cost sometimes can be quite heavy. Yeah. So imagine that happens, or even seeing videos on TikTok where people come back home from a trip and their basement is flooded. Yeah. The home is yours. If I was in an apartment, I could have just called my apartment people and they could just come fix it. Yeah. So let's say this person is experiencing this right now. Yeah. Are you still saying that it's still worth the investment?
I think over time, it's still worth the investment, right? So definitely there's going to be maintenance cost. Yeah. And hopefully you're not doing huge repairs every year. Yeah. Right? Those should be maybe every 5 years. You're not changing your roof every year, every 2 years. Your HVAC, if your HVAC is breaking down every 2 years, then maybe you have a different problem. Yeah. But yes, there's going to be large expenses. Yeah. Those things come with homeownership. Yes. Right. But I think that in the long term, yes, I think it's still a good thing. Again, remember, as far as you bought a house that wasn't too much of a house for you from a financial perspective, I think over time is always good. But then there's also the tax benefit of owning a home and owning mortgages and all that stuff. Like you can write off or deduct the taxes, the mortgage interest that you pay. So I think there are those benefits. But also, right, if you're going to own a home, you do need to take care of the house. Yes. Because when people don't take care of their homes or their investment in a home, that's when they run into issues. Like people they take maintenance, for granted. Yes. Like, are you servicing your air conditioning, your HVAC? Are you doing all these things? Are you checking your attic? Are you, inspecting your roof? Like, you don't want to wait until there's a major breakdown. Yeah. But also there's insurance, right? So insurance will cover for some of these things. Yeah. You can argue that maybe your insurance cost goes up, but like when you think about it still balances out, right? Yeah. So, but I do think that homeownership in the long run is a good decision.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So let's pivot over to maybe more a career conversation.
Yes.
This person is saying, I'm in my early 40s. I feel like I've gotten to the peak of my career and I'm not moving up. Yeah. I am stable, but my income hasn't grown significantly over the years. Yeah. And I'm starting to think about how that affects my long-term financial goals. Is it too late to make a major career or financial pivot at this stage? Or should the focus be more on optimizing what I already have?
What do you think?
This one is a very interesting one, right? Yeah. So, because remember we talked about, starting early. And then we also talked about the fact that your career is not going to be a straight line, right? Yeah. Sometimes there's a rapid acceleration. In some other cases, there's a decline. And sometimes you just feel like you're stuck there, right? So I think that this question is more from a financial angle, but I think it needs to be looked at holistically. So the first thing is, if you're feeling the way that you're feeling your career, you talked about being stable. Like, is this person enjoying what they're doing?
Yes.
Like, are you motivated to continue to do this work? Because if that's the case, you can always try to make more money if you love what you're doing. Yeah. So maybe that's like looking for other opportunities still within the same field. Right, negotiating like higher salary within your current, employer, or even taking the skills that you built at that job to go try to make money somewhere else. Maybe that's through consulting, maybe that's building a product, maybe that's whatever it is. Like, so I think that's very important. But it's key to know that your career is not always going to be uphill. Like, trending up the whole time, right? So we need to, that needs to be understood. Now, from the perspective of maybe changing your investment strategy, I think that also comes with like taking an audit. Like, where are you, right? We talked about, you can watch our video around like, net worth by age, like what should you be and how much should you have saved. And we'll probably, maybe link that in this video so people can go back and watch that. But like, if you feel like you're not where you're supposed to be, maybe it's time to rethink your investment strategy, right? Hopefully you started early, but let's say you didn't even start early. Like, how can you, jumpstart or, push your investment, right? Like, how can you do more with what you have? Then there's the part of making more money. Like, what avenues can you use to make more money? I think I just talked about maybe finding a different job. But if you're considering changing careers, you need to have very solid reasons to do that. It shouldn't just be essentially because of money.
Yes, I was going to stress that, because it can't. The reason why I want to change career can just be because of more money.
Yes.
Right. It should be bigger than that.
Yes.
It's what you said about, like, do you enjoy what you're doing?
Yeah.
And maybe the pay is just at your company. Maybe you can apply to a different company for the same role. Or maybe it's time for you to seek like a more senior role and get paid more. So there are many, many, many things to consider before you just drastically change your career.
Yes.
Because also, like, as you said, if this person started working at 25, like, you've been building for the past at least 15 years, so you do have experience in this industry. And so could that translate into something else, a different role?
Yeah.
Could you pick up a new skill and add that to your current skills and maybe pivot to something that is similar, but not overly, different from what you're doing right now? And I'm not like, against people switching careers, as long as you've actually researched. It can't just be a thing where you hear like, oh, IT is like the next craze and you jump to that. And then tomorrow nursing is the next craze and you jump to that.
Into it,
You would never be satisfied, because even if you're earning, maybe a little bit more than that, those roles require, like, you're going to easily be fatigued.
Yeah.
So the question has to be, is the plateau or, the feeling like you're just like at like a certain level, is it just financially, or is it also from the joy you experience from your job?
Yeah.
Because if it's bigger than just the finances, then I would say definitely take a step back and see. And I would say definitely research before you just change careers. Because I'm sure that, like, at the age of 40, maybe you have like a mortgage now, maybe you have kids, maybe you have like a spouse. So there are people that depend on you. So I'd say the chance is bigger than just one person at that age.
No, and I see this happen in our community a lot, where, people make moves to switch careers essentially because people are saying that's where you can earn more.
Yeah.
And they never really think about the sustainability of that decision. But I do know a lot of people over like the past, like pre-COVID or even going into COVID, a lot of people were making money in like tech and all these things. And then people said, oh, I'm going to move into that. But now we're seeing what's happening, right? The competition for jobs is a lot higher than it's ever been, So, and then you left a career that you've been in 15, maybe even 20 years, and it's stable, where you can find ways to kind of grow within that career. But to the point that we made, if it's not just money and there are other things, maybe you don't enjoy it, you don't have the fulfillment, then that's a different question. But making a career move or switching careers just essentially because of money, I'd rather keep my career and find other ways to make money, right, than switching careers just essentially because of money. I think it's something to think about.
And I think all of these questions, right, boils around knowledge.
Yes.
Like, really, I feel like we're going to keep saying financial audit every episode.
We have to.
But it is the first step. Like, really assessing where you are today, really assessing what's going out, what's coming in. Like, that, I feel like we can't stress how important that is, because it gives you a level of clarity. And I feel like one thing also is, like, if you're not able to reduce your expenses, try to increase your income. And I know, like, there's been this crazy amount of people like kind of like job hop around to kind of increase salary and stuff. And I'm not saying maybe like that's always the best decision, but I also say do what's best for you. If that means a higher income and maybe more stability and enjoyment in your role, then I say definitely do that. And we've talked about black tax as well.
Yes.
And, not just teaching people, just giving people money, but also helping them and, empowering them to do more things. But what else do you think people should take out of like this conversation?
I do think that one of the things we've talked about is really optimizing for the right things. So for a young person, right, optimize for opportunities, optimize for risk taking, right? Take calculated risk, do things that are interesting early, like invest in things now that can pay off. Maybe that's investing in, money investment, time investment, skill investment, like do that. And then for someone who is much older, like be very cognizant of where you are in your life. Be truthful to yourself. Be perfectly honest about how things are going.
Yeah.
Because then that gives you the humility to take the right steps. Maybe that's surrounding yourself with the right people, cutting down on lifestyle, building the skills that help you kind of do well, right?
Yeah.
I think that's really it. Now, the truth of the matter is we're all navigating these things, right? We have all these questions. We have these realities. We want to build well. We want to have a great career. And so we want to be your buddy. We want to be your community. Like, you can come here and ask these questions. And these are the conversations that we have. So if there are things that you think we should be talking about or things that you'd like to get our insights on, definitely let us know about that in the comments, right?
Yes, please.
Of course.
Yes.
So, and we will take our time to, we don't always have the answers like we said, but we're very happy to navigate that with you.
Yes, definitely. Thank you all for staying tuned for this episode. We'll see you on the next episode. Bye.